Hello, this is Lisa LeRose on Connect to Love here on PRN-FM, and I'm joined today by my wonderful co-host, Michael J. Russ, who reminds me every day of the things that I forgot. And one of them is to make my day awesome and to always smile no matter what obstacles come across my path. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Michael J. Russ. How are you, Michael?
Awesome. Always awesome, amazing, magnificent. It's a great day. That's the way I choose it to be. So it's always amazing. It's beautiful outside. Even though it started out raining this morning, it rained all over me with the barn this morning. So, but it cleared up.
But the rain,
it was a gorgeous day.
Yeah, the rain. We have the same thing here. You know, it's you get these patches of rain coming in, and then we get blue skies, and then it only seems to be raining on one side of the street, which it's always, but you get the beautiful rainbows that come along with it, which is always a delight. Always a delight. It's the unexpected things that you see. And for anybody that had joined us last week, we were delving into happiness and really how not only to be happy and to choose a different attitude and to participate in your life from a point of positivity and to bring in as much happiness even when you're feeling overwhelmed. And one of the things that I found so fascinating and when I was looking up some different things about happiness was one of the tricks that the Buddhists use. They choose to not say, I am angry. Rather, they say that I am with anger. So they recognize that it's something within you that you can meet and not that it's you, and which I find really fascinating because, when you say I'm angry or I'm happy, you sort of sit with that. And I really loved that approach, and it reminded me of Mahatma Gandhi's saying, which is actually on my T-shirt today, be the change you wish to see in the world. And I think that sometimes, and I find, Michael, in these wonderful conversations I have with you, one concept really leads into another because they're so connected. And I know that you are one of you do exemplify the change you wish to see in the world. And I'd love for you to share with the audience some of the ways that you do that.
Gee, put me on the spot. Go ahead. Yeah, that's fine. I got to say, first off, thank you so much for the compliments earlier on. And I just got to say, if we all do one simple thing in the morning, and that is wake up with the full awareness that we choose how our day is going to be. And we make these choices all throughout the day. I'm big into creating a reality, and happiness is your flow of happiness is part of that reality you really want to experience every day. So one of the things that I make sure I do every morning when I wake up is recognize and acknowledge that I'm the one creating my day, that my day. I'm the one who creates the reality I experience throughout my day. So when I get hit with something, blindsided with something that throws me, because that's always possible, something could always happen that initially throws you for a loop, and that, for those who are around the world, that is a euphemism for sends you off base. It knocks you off your feet a little bit mentally, and that is, and it's not that you want to prevent those things from happening. I think it's almost impossible to prevent yourself from initially having a reaction to things, and the interesting thing is, though, after you have your initial response, you can then elevate your awareness to recognize what you've done, where you are, how you feel, and what you're thinking is, and then you can change that. You can come back from that. There's not a day goes by where something might happen and I get that initial negative response. It's the recognition of that the realization of it that allows me to take hold of my sovereignty and my power to powers of alchemy to be able to shift and change the way I'm thinking by re-examining why I made that first initial thought in the first place. What was my perception that led to that negativity, and then just turn around and just change it and shift it really quickly. That's what counts. And for me, that's how I go about my day, because I don't really have control of most of the things that happen throughout the day. And that's number two. Recognize that much of what happens that day is beyond your control. You'll experience things. You'll expose yourself to things that are not within your control. And when you recognize that, you simply acknowledge what has happened and let it go. If you have no ability, if nothing you do will have any impact, positive impact on what has gone on, what has happened, what you're exposed to, then you have to just simply send it some love and move on. And that is, in my view, one of the major things that I do throughout the day. As a matter of fact, my license plate says "U," the letter U, let go. That's what my license plate says.
Oh,
and I get a lot of comments.
I never do that. That's amazing.
So my little sports car, I have a "U, let go." People goes to me, goes, "What's that? What's that mean?" And I said, "It means that I don't hold on to things. I let them go." And he goes, "Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. When you don't hold on, when you don't let go of things, especially those things that stir up some negativity within you, though that negativity festers and turns into something else, and generally something. And it also it's an energy that you take into the next moment. That's really the most important aspect of it. You want to make sure that you're going into the next moment with clean energy, with higher frequency energy. And so it's important to recognize how you feel and shift it and change it so that you're not carrying forward into the next moment some negativity that really is of no importance to you and no relevance to you in the future. Our present, I like to say, we can't change our past. Our present is what it is, but our present also forms our future. It creates our future. What we're thinking in this present moment, it really impacts our future reality. And that is played out. It plays out every single day. And I love that, how the Buddhists say, "I am with anger." Just to focus on that for a second. I am with, meaning, and I take it as I am with anger, which means I can choose to be without anger.
Absolutely.
I can choose to be. It's a choice. They're stating it as really as a choice. I'm with anger right now, and I can shift my perception. I can shift my thinking about the way I'm perceiving what's happening, and I can be without anger just as quickly as I was with anger. And I always remember that. And it's about constantly being aware and alert to what's relevant to you in your life and to what your intentions and goals and dreams are in life. If your intention is to be happy, then you need to really kick up that awareness as to how you're feeling and how the flow of happiness is occurring within you. Are you letting things outside of you impact your flow of happiness because they're taking your mind away from what's important for you? Are you out there just reacting to everything? Because most of what you experience throughout the day is negative, because that's the way our world is designed. People, corporations, and negative sells. Everybody will tell you that. Negativity sells. When somebody writes a book that says, and one of the tenets of the book is communicating with people, communicating to someone what they want to avoid is more valuable than what they want in life. So if you want to sell something to someone, you need to frame it as something they can avoid. And I'm like, you know what? That's kind of backwards, but that's the way our world is. People will react to more heavily to what they want to avoid than actually saying, hey, if you do this, you'll be the happiest person in the world. And just do this thing. Instead of, if you avoid doing that, you'll be the happiest person in the world. I prefer the other one. However, that's not the way marketing works. That's not the way our world. Most of what you're exposed to, the information, digitally or otherwise, that you're exposed to every day works. You have to, in my view, we have to work within the context of where we are and what we're being. This is the world, the digital world, the digital age that we're dealing with right now. I'm not going to say I'd like to go back to the 17 or 1800s. I don't think that would be very much fun. When it didn't exist, and we had little newspapers in every town, and everything came by telegraph. We found out what was going on in the next town. We just have to understand how to process information more efficiently, more positively, more effectively, so to speak. That's really where it comes in, because that's really what throws us off. It's our reactions to the outside world, things that we don't have any control over. And I'm always cognizant of that, I got to tell you. And you can then begin to reshape what you expose yourself to. You can narrow that funnel of what you're exposing yourself to. Taking 15 different newsletters in a day is sometimes not the most optimal thing to do if happiness is your goal. That happiness within you is generally stifled because the people who are marketing through their newsletters, sending you information, are generally, they're going to use the tools that they know will get you engaged. And that's generally something that pulls at your negative emotions. I know for a fact that you control your environment, what you expose yourself to. Am I right?
Oh, 100%. I truly believe that the subconscious mind is molded by what we tell ourselves. And when you really think about that Buddhist practice, that I am with anger, it detaches you from owning that, and to be able to release it, and as you said, let it go. When you realize that it doesn't have to be a part of you, it's not you, it's not who you are inherently. You come into this world as a happy sovereign being, and we somehow detach ourselves from that. We get influences, we have problems that come up, things that really can change us and take us away from what it is. One of the things that I try to do daily to encourage happiness for myself is just being grateful for my life. And as Glenn Brooks, the founder of Vibrant Living, used to say, your life is precious, enjoy it. So be thankful for the wonderful people that are connected to you along your journey. I'm super grateful for you, Michael. I look forward to whatever adventure comes my way when the day starts. I'm grateful that I wake up in the morning and, sometimes, my life isn't picture perfect. You have different things. I lost one of my shepherds over the weekend. She lived a really long life. She was an 18-year-old, and, she had started to wind down a little bit, and I just the night before, I kind of felt like she was going to get ready to go, and I just told her what a lovely lady she was and what a pleasure it was to be able to care for her, and it was okay for her to let go. And, I had to go out in the morning, and when I came back, she was gone. And so that afternoon, I have a pet cemetery. My very big yard.
You too? You too?
I do. So she's part of my backyard now, and but it was so interesting because when we've covered her over and placed the dirt and said the prayers, I looked up in the sky, and there was no rain, and there was nothing, and the sun was off to the right, but to the left was a beautiful, what I call a sundog. It's the rainbow that comes out, and it was just a vertical rainbow, and there was no apparent reason that it should be there other than the fact that, I think she was grateful, and that was sort of her, her message that she sent through. Yeah, but I think you're sad for the loss. But, when you look forward to whatever the challenge is, and it's your attitude about how you face it that really makes the difference. And I believe that, being the change that you wish to see in the world, a positive outlook is contagious. Everything affects everything else in the universe. We're all connected like a web. And, positive thoughts and positive actions affect everyone else. And really, That's the bottom line. So if you are going to be with something, being with positivity or being with happiness, it's something that you can be an example for and really share with all those around you. So
true.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. I'll only add that we must, to expound upon that, be the change you want to see in the world. We must be the compassion, the kindness, the hope, the love, and the empathy that we wish the world to exhibit. We can't sit out there and say, "Oh, yeah, I want the world to be this way," but we are not that way ourselves. It's a lot of people want to be of service to the world, but without being of service to themselves first. We have to. Everything must emanate from us. Prem Rawat. I just looked up this really wonderful quote. He said, "Happiness is your treasure because it lies within you."
Oh, that's beautiful.
Just one of many awesome quotes that make the point that it has always been with you. As you said earlier, we're born happy, sovereign beings. And I tell people when they say, "Oh, I want some happiness." Well, you want happiness. You just want to be happy. I want to be happy like you and Sandy. And I'm going, well, okay, that's a full-time job, okay? Just to make sure that we understand that happiness is an intention that I created. And that it happens because I intend for it to occur. That happiness, I have to be happy first. Sandy's an empath. If I'm not happy, if I'm off kilter, if I don't feel good about myself or my life, it's going to be reflected in her almost immediately. It's really interesting, and she's not fully understanding of the kind of empathic ability that she has. However, I know that. I've been working with her. Well, I've been with her for 20 years, known her for 50. However, understanding, how she is, and again, it's like this interesting thing. She's a mirror for how I feel. If my mind is focused on something, and I'm off, and she'll ask me what's going on, because she can sense it immediately. So she's the mirror for me to how I'm feeling. If I'm flowing with happiness, she can sense that and she can know it. And if I'm not, I'm a Gemini, and she'll say, "Where's the other guy? Bring back the other guy." Because I've moved off into this space either of solitude or deep thinking for a moment, and it's coming at a time when I should be doing something else. Engaging with people relationally, and this is, we. One of the major tenets of life, and Glenn Brooks is really, really, the founder of Vibrant Living Radio, he was very big into this, into relational connection, not just, just getting together and whatever, just creating deep relational connections with yourself, because you have to have a deep relational connection with yourself and understand yourself, and with others that you came across on a daily basis. And he would always test his theory. I mean, every day he was testing his theory. He'd go to the dining hall in Amherst, the university there, and he wasn't a student. However, every day he tested his ability to be relational, to be admitted into the dining hall. Yeah, he pays $10. Wow. Heck, when I was there with him, I paid $10. He paid $10. We went into the number one dining hall at a university in the entire country. Okay, and this place was amazing. These students are treated like solid gold with this dining hall. It had everything. It looked like a food court in a mall, high-end food court. I mean, grass-fed beef and sushi and all the. I'm like, what?
Oh my gosh, that was at my dining hall.
$10, all you can eat. $10.
Wow.
I'm going, what? Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And guests could come in. And I was like, I don't know. He says, "Come on down. Let's go to the dining hall." I said, "Don't you have to be a student?" He says, No, we'll see what happens. And it's a function of magic when you work with people and you treat them with dignity and respect and kindness and compassion. It's amazing the doors that open. Because generally most people don't experience that on a daily basis from other people. And I'm always, again, cognizant of this fact that how I am and how I feel about myself is integral to my connection with people, developing a connection with people and being connected with people as I move about my day. And we have to kind of keep that in mind. And that's all part about, you want somebody else to be loving, you have to be loving yourself and demonstrate how it's done. Demonstrate it. You're an ambassador for happiness and kindness and love and compassion and empathy. You're an ambassador. We all must be ambassadors. We get caught up in the stuff that's going on of this side versus that side and them versus us, when in essence we are all one. We are one. One Love is a very long song by Bob Marley. If you ever listen, it was a very long song. Heck, I heard the whole thing the other day. I'm going, man, this song goes on forever, because he had a lot to say about oneness. Yeah, he had a lot to say about oneness. It was like the main tenet of his entire life was oneness.
Right.
Interestingly enough,
why his music is so timeless.
Exactly. Everything is. I mean, it's like I was in Jamaica last year in October, and it's so beautiful to engage with the people who actually live it day in, day out. That is again one of the tenets of life for them is oneness. We're all one. We got to help each other. We come from the same cloth, so to speak. And when you start thinking about that, then someone who has or someone who has not, technically, it doesn't matter. Money doesn't make you more elevated in life than someone else, although our society treats it that way. It looks at somebody, maybe they've got something more than me. Basically, that's not the case. I know people with lots of money that have no common sense or sense of compassion or empathy, or anything else, because they don't live that. That's not the way that they don't embrace it, and that's not their intention on a daily basis. They see those attributes as signs of weakness, and unfortunately, they're not. And I embrace anyone and everyone who's kind of made it and looks at made their life financially from an abundance perspective, and then turns around and says, this isn't all there is. I'm here. I've achieved the success so that I can help others in some way. I can be of service. That is awesome. Okay, so and I applaud people who've done that. And Denzel Washington is one of them. One of my favorites for somebody who walks the walk with regard to love and kindness and connection. Doesn't mean you're going to knock on his front door and he's going to let you in if he doesn't know you. However, he is more than happy and willing to be able to help you move forward. And you can just look at his videos and what he's demonstrated in life to see that that's the case. I see a lot of really cool stuff coming. He's just one example of somebody. I'm not really into star worship or anything of that nature. My brother's a star, and I don't even, he's just another human being to me. He's amazing, but everybody chooses their career path, their what they do in life, and some people choose that, and other people choose to do what you and I do, which is you care for animals, dogs, and I think and cats too, I believe, and have your life kind of you're of service in that way. I'm of service in a different way, although I've been of service to pets and the like, and I'm of service to a cat that seems to run my life right about now, and it's fun. It's hilarious. I don't get them. I never will get them. It's like I don't know how anybody at 4 a.m. can be that loving when I'm trying to sleep. I mean, the most loving this little furry creature is at about 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, just more syrupy loving. I wake up and she don't want anything to do with me for the rest of the day. I don't get it. But heck, at 4 o'clock in the morning,
cat for sure.
Jumps on the bed and wants, puts her little head in my hand finds it in the dark because they can see beautifully, evidently, and finds my hand and puts her head in my hand and come on, give me a little noggin rub and for 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden, boom, I don't want anything else to do with you for the rest of the day. But
so funny.
It's the joy and gratitude I have for being able to do that with a little creature. And again, kudos and deepest sympathies for the way that you are handling the loss of your dog, and thank you for sharing what it is that your perspective with regard to his loss. I think that's absolutely amazing. We both have pet graveyards. Heck, we've got a barn with 3 horses in the ground. And that's,
my goodness.
And it's, it's I always say gratitude is one of the fastest ways to move through anything, because it shifts your thinking. It shifts your thoughts to being grateful instead of sadness for them not being around, being able to touch them, feel them, sense them, hug them, whatever. Feel their love. You can move from and that's how I've gotten through the loss of not only dogs and horses, and it's beautiful to have that. It's really, really neat. But and that's I'll tell you this one thing. This maybe let's shift the conversation just a little bit. The perception that life is precious, that Glenn Brooks always used to say, has legs, has long legs. And that perception is one that I know I wake up with in the morning, every morning. And when you intentionally create positive perceptions in the morning, it does impact the rest of your day. The more you do it, the more impact it has on your reality and how you feel about your life. And when you embrace that in sovereignty, you know that you're not going to let anything outside of you disrupt that calmness that you have within you. And it's easy. And I came across somebody just the other day who had a friend who she says was completely full of light, completely just such a light being. And what's interesting is, and I know I have another friend that's like this too, a young man. And the young man and this particular individual were having a challenge because they were losing connections that they had. People that around them were passing away at a maybe an accelerated rate. Normally, in the course of our lives, we don't experience someone close to us as a rule passing away once every few years, once every 10 years, once every 20 years. The average person really doesn't experience that. And when you have people passing away, 4 or 5 people in a year, people really deeply close to you that you're connected to, it can throw you for a loop. It really can. Right. You can start to question, yourself, your life, what's it all about. And the only thing that we can embrace at that particular point that will help bring some sort of meaning is that we don't have any control over other people. When they come, how they go, what they do, what they're thinking, and how they'll respond to what we say. That is not within our purview. We don't have the ability. We can, as I like to say and have said already, we can live our lives with empathy and compassion, love and kindness, and hope and optimism. We can live that way. We can choose to live that way. We can apply that to everything. The loss of your pet, loss of my best friend, loss of my girlfriend 20 years ago, 30 years ago, actually like 30, almost 40 years ago. And my father, everything. You literally have to apply that to everything. It's not like it's a template for one thing and not another. This is, if you're going to be that way, you have to be that way. And it will bring such a sense of understanding to you, and it's a way of grounding you. And in my view, that's what it is. When you're looking for something, you're wondering, everything's out of control in your life. Well, it's not really out of control in your life. Your perceptions and your thinking are out of control. They're incongruent with reality, which is you can't control reality except for yours. Outer reality, no. You can control how you interpret your life what happens to you. You can your interpretation of people dying around you is what creates the reality that you live. And as my friend was doing, he was off his rocker with, pain and suffering and why and how. And I simply alluded, and as I'll allude to anyone, when you've lost people, a lot of people have lost people. The how and the why is not as important as what you are thinking yourself. How and why are a deep, dark hole. That's like a complete unknown of what you can't control. That's really focusing on spinning your wheels on things that you have no ability to control. Why did your pet pass away? If you focus on that versus the gratitude for having had the time with your pet, there's a difference there in terms of the energy that you're actually bringing to the table, the energy that you're emanating within you, the frequency that you're generating. Gratitude is huge from that standpoint. And we must get to that point. I like to be at that point. I like to do that every day. And it's what we practice. Buddhists every single day are practicing gratitude, practicing forgiveness, practicing love. Every single day. They're meditating for hours on these concepts and principles and their connection to spirit. They're hours and hours they've dedicated to doing this. And we as humans running around with our chickens with their head cut off sometimes, reacting and responding to all these things that are going on, we're not centered. We're allowing the outside world to dictate what we think and feel. And that is, when you can flip that switch, that's when you're really cooking on all, cooking on all the burners, but you know what I'm talking about. You're running on all 8 cylinders, and you're doing it. You're operating and you're controlling your life. I'm so passionate about that. It's insane. And people say, "Oh, you're a control freak." Not a control freak. No, I just recognize what I can control, and I do everything I can. I spend 100% of my time controlling what is controllable. And when you do that, boy, life is easy. You can be happy. You can have a magnificent day, in spite of the world falling apart around you. You can have a magnificent day. Awesome day.
Right. Well, and I think that's the important thing, Michael, that you're the person in charge of your own happiness. You drive the car. You make the decisions where you're going to go, when you're going to go, how fast you're going to travel. So you navigate that, and you have to, you can choose to take the easiest route, or take the one that's got all these different roadblocks. I think that's something for us to recognize, and then, sometimes you have to take the car to the mechanic. So maybe the mechanic is, you're my mechanic, Michael. You remind me, like, okay, get back on, okay, you got to fill up your tank. You need a little bit more rest, get some rest and refuel and take some time for yourself. And, ultimately, you have control. You are the one that's driving. And wherever you try to do, but like that analogy, you're on this road, and I always think about that poem about taking the road less traveled, and I took the path less traveled, and that made all the difference. That poem has stuck in my head my whole life, and sometimes that's the route that you need to, not jumping on the bandwagon, like, okay, this is what is valuable in the visible material world. I don't really, because they've got that kind of car, I need that kind of car. You decide what it is for yourself that is going to make you happy, and you don't need to apologize for it. You practice what it is, and, as you start to, I think, gain more trust in your own self-knowledge, that you will gain confidence, and things can really, really change. And, I just wanted to say something when you were talking about, the connection that we have. I have a friend, he posted on Facebook last week that he lost his dad, and last night I saw that his mother also joined the father in crossing. Maybe just it was like a week later, and I think that happens quite a bit. Where we have this connection to somebody else that you have enjoyed love and happiness and joy, and that they've chosen to leave, and that it's that awareness that you can go to, and there's no reason to stay any longer. I think, you see that a lot of times in life, but I think that when you feel empathy or experience sorrow or whatever it is, you can anchor into happiness and reconnect to it whenever you need to. It's I have after we had our conversation last week, Michael, I had to laugh because Joe Boxer made women's underwear for a while, and they had a big smiley face on the bottom. I don't know if you have ever seen that line.
Never saw that.
I loved those. I mean, this is very, personal, intimate, but I love them because wherever I would go, even though nobody saw them, I would know that I'd have a smile that I was leaving behind me energetically to whoever, that I came in contact with. And sometimes, I'd go through the airport, have a big smile on my face, and I'm thinking, energetically, and I was so disappointed when they stopped making them. I thought, geez, I got to go back and maybe do a whole line of myself of something similar because, but it did. It made me smile. I mean, it was a silly little thing, but, you get up in the morning, you're like, okay, what kind of smile am I going to put on today? And, and that's what you carry with you wherever you go. But that being said, we're sort of like a radio station. You tune in to what it is. And a friend of mine gave me a controller knob off of an old portable radio where you had knobs and you dial it in. And he gave it to me, and he said, it as a reminder that if I'm in a certain vibrational pattern or I'm in a certain mindset, all it takes is a small turn of the dial to go onto a different channel. And, I keep that with me, and sometimes I'll pull it out. I'm like, okay, you know what, here, let's just turn the dial. Turn it to something else and be in a different space, because it's all about perspective. It's all about how we see something. And it's that same thing, when I think Wayne Dyer used to say, how did he word that? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Right?
Yeah, that's basically it. It's that, kind of from my view of controlling and creating your reality. I'm fascinated by that because everything here is connected. It's like this ecosystem of things, personal alchemy, sovereignty, creating a reality, and how you feel. This is all, it's all connected. And when you begin to embrace that system of that ecosystem, you gain such greater control over yourself and the life that you're engaging in here. You do that. And when you were talking, there's something that came to me. I love your driving a car analogy, by the way. And I used something similar to this in a podcast when it came to building your house, right? You can build your house. When it comes to creating a reality, creating your day, creating a reality during the day, you can build your day any way that you like it to be, or build your life. Create your life. I use the analogy of actually building a house. You looked at when you build your own custom home, every nuance is under your purview. You control everything. Talking about driving a car, think about what most people do. They love driving their car, and imagine somebody, other people, other circumstances and instances, putting you in the back seat and driving your car for you and going wherever it is they wanted to go, instead of you being in control of where you want to go. Because that's really what it's like. It's when you outsource, and this is the word that came to me, outsource your happiness, then those things that you're outsourcing your happiness to are what is control. And it's control of your happiness, and control of your reality, and control of the way you feel, what you're thinking, what you think about yourself. You're letting other people, if you let other people tell you what you're capable of and what they think you should do, then you know that it's not coming from you, and you've literally put somebody else in charge of driving you around. There's a great piece. I got to tell you something. This is really the most interesting thing I've ever seen. But there's a video on YouTube. It's about about 18, 19 minutes long. Something along those lines. It's called "It Works." It Works. This is a guy who wrote this piece in 1926 about manifestation. And it's a very short piece, a short pamphlet that was turned into a YouTube video called "It Works," and because that's the name of the book. And one of the things that he said initially, which I thought was really, really unique, and this is really what trips most people up when it comes to achieving their goals, their dreams, and what they're most passionate about. Going after what they're most passionate about. He said, and I'm not paraphrasing. This is exactly what he said. Your subjective mind is so susceptible to suggestion that it is almost impossible to make any satisfactory progress around skeptics.
Wow.
Therefore, choose your friends carefully. Associate with people who now have what you want, and now have some of what you want. But don't discuss your method of accomplishment with them. What most people do, and I told my good friend this the other day, is, when you discover you have a passion for something and you'd like to pursue it, one of the things that first inclinations you have is to go to somebody you really care about, your best friend, your loved one, your mother, your father, whatever, and you tell them, hey, I want to do this. And what happens is they're coming from a completely different place, a place that's contaminated by their own thoughts, their own perceptions, their own experiences, right? And how do you expect them to support what you want to do? And even thinking, hey, I wanted to be an actor and I failed at it. I don't want you to go down that route, right? I was a musician and I couldn't make a living at it. I needed to support a family. And if you're down the road, you need to do something that's going to support a family. They shoot holes, literally, in your dreams and your goals and your intentions, the things that you've discovered a passion for. Maybe you just want to go out and learn how to play an instrument. You think it may be a thing you could make a living at. However, that horse hasn't even gotten into the gate yet. Now you basically just want to go explore it. I made a living playing drums. However, it was not my professional career. I did play professionally for a while, but it wasn't the career that I chose down the line. I discovered that it was really playing drums was a catalyst for me being comfortable in front of people, for talking in front of people. That was my purpose for doing it for many, many years. I can stand in front of, I don't care how many people it is, 100,000 people. I had a guy an illusionist, bring me up on stage here in front of 10,000 people. No problem. I just focused on him, what he was talking about, what he was asking me to do, and I wasn't nervous at all. I'm not nervous in front of people, and mainly because at 7 I started playing in front of people. So sometimes the gift you have has a purpose in your life that is different than what you think it's supposed to be. It's sometimes it's not all about money and making a living. It's about grounding you and helping you down other pathways, helping you get down other pathways, and that's kind of how I saw it. So it's beautiful what this particular gentleman said, because this is where most people allow other people to discredit their own ideas, and then they themselves, in their own inner conversation, discredit themselves. They say, just a passing thing for me. This is not possible. I can't believe this could happen to me. I don't believe this happened to me, when something really, really good happens. And what a remarkable coincidence. I would say this right now. I won't ever say those things. Teach yourself to say thank you, universe, and that's it, and move on. I'm so grateful that this happened to me, and I deserve this, because I deserve the very best life has to offer. That's just it. People who have an issue, and I at one point in my life had an issue saying thank you, or good things that happened to me, or when people did nice things for me, and then I learned. I said, okay, I deserve this. And it's best for me to say thank you and live with gratitude and move forward. And and say, this is the manifestation of all the good work I've been doing with myself. That's what it is. Manifestation of all the work I've been doing with myself. Spiritual work, happiness work, outsourcing your happiness, outsourcing anything to something outside of you. I know we're not talking about relationships, and we should have a whole show on that. However, this is my
sure.
my biggest no-no in a relationship is to outsource your happiness to someone else. In my view, happiness in a relationship comes from both people being happy with themselves. Then the happiness comes to the relationship, surrounds the relationship. Same thing with love. If you love yourself, the relationship will be loving if both people love themselves.
Right. One
person is depending on the other, outsourcing their love or their happiness to their partner. We've got a smothering situation and I've been in that kind of situation where my significant other didn't love themselves, and they were always looking to me to make them feel good, to make them happy, to make them love themselves. And it got very, very, very tiring. It is tiring when you have to try to make somebody, you have to keep doing things to help someone else feel good about themselves and their life. It's much easier in a relationship when two people come together. It's a growing environment. That's why relationships exist, so that two people can learn from each other and elevate themselves consciously, and elevate the idea of themselves and where they're going. And it's such a beautiful thing to see when that happens. It takes one person to start it, of course. It takes one person to start it. And Glenn used to say something interesting to me. I don't know how you feel about this, but Glenn Brooks used to say one thing. He said in a relationship, it only takes you only need one loving person in a relationship in order to bring love to the whole relationship. And I used to have disagreements with him about this all the time. I mean, it used to be these grand debates that we would have, these grand debates of this. He's saying, if one person is, because Glenn was pretty matter of fact. Based on his life experience, he thought that if one person had all the love, it could make the relationship great, that the relationship would be together. And I'm going, but Glenn, if the other person doesn't love themselves, you can have all the love in the world. It's just they need to basically find love within them. Through either what they're doing, maybe they're not connected to their passions, they haven't discovered what their own interests and talents and gifts are. There's a lot of different things that comprise that comprise that love, that can get that love within you and the happiness within you and the contentment and the fulfillment, joy within you, the satisfaction within you flowing. And maybe they just haven't found it yet. You can give them all the love in the world, but the line of, hey, I got to go find myself does have meaning in one way or the other. If it's emanating from their heart and they're saying, I need to go, I'm not really contributing here because I don't know who the heck I am. And I've had other people and everybody in my life tell me who I am, but I don't know who I am. Wow, interesting place to be in. Great place to start, by the way, is that realization. Great place to start. And I've spent years, decades, learning who the heck I am. No relationships haven't gone well. Then you're going to have relationships that are train wrecks or something close, and that's a natural part of your understanding and moving forward in life. And I think it's fantastic. But all these things are connected because it's, I guess, what I'm attempting to say here. Because happiness and love within you impact other people, because that's a frequency that you're sending out. A lack of love, a lack of happiness, that's a frequency. That's energy that you're putting out there, and it's impacting the people around you, at work, at home. Your kids can sense it. Your pets can sense it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, everybody can sense it, right? So working on you, back to our original point in this, is be the change you want to see in the world. That is what it all comes back to. It's all about you. all about you.
Right. Oh, 100%. I'm an avid reader, and in one of the books that I was delving into, actually, it's a really fantastic book on sound medicine written by an MD, and I just can't tell you how profound this book is. But one of the things that she talks about is how we are made up of water, and how water is a conductor of sound, and that when we are in our mother's womb, our sense of hearing is one of the things that develops first within, I think, the first 8 weeks. And so as we're hearing, the loving sounds or music or whatever it is, that sort of becomes a part of us. And that she talked about resonance, and she said that it comes from the Latin word resonantia, which means echo, which I thought was so profound, because I thought, oh, an echo, that's what we're doing. We are projecting out whatever that is, whether it be happiness or something else. So, if somebody comes and they say, well, how can I be happy? I have terminal cancer. How can I be positive about anything now? Well, I guess the question you would pose to them is, well, how do you envision thinking negatively will help you? You need to enjoy life, while we have it. Now is more important than ever to be positive. We all have a finite number of days on this planet. And, that's we come into this world and we will leave this world. There's not one person who doesn't leave the physicality. But this vessel that we inhabit while we're here, we can echo that to others, and, you go into a canyon and that whatever it is, the small things that you do each day to raise your vibration, to raise your happiness levels, to emanate that, and to really be the change you wish to see in the world. There was a woman that used to work at Target, and her husband was diagnosed with cancer, and then she was diagnosed, and every time you saw her, she had the biggest smile on her face, and you'd say, how are you doing? And she's like, I'm wonderful. And even if there were all of these different challenges, that woman, I thought, oh my gosh, she's the most positive person I have ever met. And she was happy. She said, I'm really, every day, she said, I'm choosing to be happy, and I'm choosing to enjoy it. And she emanated that. I mean, and, you thought to yourself, well, you only have, who knows how much time you're working at Target, but for her, it made her happy to be able to see people, to interact with individuals. So I would encourage anybody, whatever it is that you're doing, you want to find the things that make you look forward to each day, because rather than, choose something else. I truly believe that. And, the Mama Wiska, the connection we have to each other. And, so why not choose happiness as that connection? From every aspect of your beingness. I would encourage that. And, that's what,
Yeah, I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. The issue we have is our level of conscious awareness, our level of connectivity to something greater than ourselves. And a lot of times it's just a function of it's all we know. Outsourcing happiness is all we've ever known. That's all we've ever experienced. Outsourcing our love is all we've ever known. And one of the first, in my view, elements of personal alchemy in order, personal transformation, is receptivity. We have to first be receptive to some other way of being, some other way of thinking, and acting, and speaking about ourselves in order to, and feeling, to be able to embrace something that can help us expand and evolve as a soul in the vessel that we're in. And I find, and there's a, and you one of the things I've had to give up, because I can't control this, I had to give up the control of whether or not someone acts on what it is that I'm sharing. I've had to give that up. And we can't, no listeners to our podcast we cannot get any listeners to our podcast to actually acquiesce to anything that we're saying, to give it a try, to make an attempt to see happiness in a different way. All we can do is impart the information, the wisdom, experientially or otherwise, that we both actually have collected throughout our lives, and through our enlightenment, our own enlightenment, and be able to put that forth as a way of helping people make the shift themselves, make that shift. And I got to tell you, a comment about the sound medicine, it's really interesting, because decades ago, there was actually somebody, I'm sure you're familiar with this, I think it was even back in the 60s, they were talking about exposing your child in the womb to musical vibrations, classical music, other types of vibrations that would, because the classical music has, like Mozart and others, has a vibrational frequency that is very uplifting, very enlightening. And there were also experiments done, I believe, I can't tell you who they are, who did them or whatever, but I heard about them, of scientists who were doing studies about being able to, about speaking to your child in the womb. And I do know that through other studies, and it's really odd that your child in the womb, because you've actually just pretty much put the nail on the head and helped me understand this through the sound medicine. But if hearing is the first thing that develops, the sense of being able to hear, the sense of vibration, negativity, energy, negative vibes, parents arguing, the stress and strain that they're under in their lives, in their personal lives and professional lives that they bring home. And when the child is developing, the child is exposed to all of this, okay? Exposed to the negativity, those negative vibes, the arguing, the discontent, and this sort of thing, that those negative vibes that occur as they're developing, that, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my view, if all this applies in terms of sound and hearing and vibrations and the like, that child can come out of the womb with that, and with those vibrations as part of their psyche. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and then they're exposed to more of them after they get born, and after they come out of the womb. And it's just kind of interesting, because it's fascinating to me, this concept, this relationship when a child is in the womb. My sister, I'll just tell you this quick little story here, because we only have a couple minutes left. Quick story, that my sister raised 2 self-actualized, brilliant children. And I kept wondering why she had her first child at 39, second at 41. Both of them were 4.10 students, and very amazing in terms of self-actualization, brilliant, and very relationally connected with people. And it happened to coincide, their birth and upbringing coincided with my sister, who had created audiobooks, videos for and about what's it called? It's early childhood education, music and movement, sound and movement, color and movement, color vibrations, all that kind of stuff. And she's certified. She goes around the country teaching people who are raising children, teachers and others that have children in their class, etc. That's what she does. But these kids came about while she was developing that curriculum. Interesting, the music and everything. And in my view, they are who they are because they were exposed to this as not only in the womb, but as they were growing up. Interesting, yeah?
Yeah. No, it would definitely make sense. No, and one of the quotes, and I'll let you close, but I'm just going to read this quote. One of the quotes that she chose to include in her book was that music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything else. and that was from Plato. And that's how long ago that goes back. And I just love that, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination. And so, if you're choosing your point of what you want to be with today, I would encourage everybody to be with happiness, be with joy, be with peace, and be with love. And
Absolutely. So. I don't think I can add anything to that. I'm sorry. That was so spectacular. I honestly, I don't have another word I can add to it. Music to the soul, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination. Yeah, that's it. We have to leave it there.
And so it is. And thank you all for joining us here on Connect to Love, and we look forward to our next conversation. Thank you all.
Take care.